Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of After the Snuff, your weekly recap of Dynamic Character Productions' Moneta Bank. And this week, I am joined by our last two jurors, Evan and Karli. Hello to both of you. Welcome to After the Snuff. Sucks having to talk to you in this episode, not the next one, but here you are. I'm very excited to dive into your guys' games. How are you doing today?
Great. Well, Evan's in Hawaii, so he's doing awesome.
Let's go. Look,
yeah.
I'm surfing right now.
Yeah, I'm in my parents' basement, but it's Mother's Day weekend, so they're excited to watch this later, but I told them I have to wait.
Okay, well,
So excited to be here.
Yeah, perfect. Evan, I'm excited. And I'm really excited to get into your guys' games because there is so much of your game that we get to dive into. And let's start at the very beginning. You both end up on the Argento tribe to start this, and you get swapped to the Argento tribe, which just means you two are winning pretty much the entire pre-merge. So, Evan, walk me through how you approach that situation of having to be in a group setting for almost the entire first 4 hours of this game.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, I didn't realize how bad my audio quality was. So I'm so sorry for all the people who put up with me. It's like, that would be like surefire, like, let's get this guy out. I don't know what he's saying. I can't hear it. But, like, my game plan going in did not happen because right before the game started, when we were waiting for, I guess, Naropa to, not because he was late, but I spilled coffee all over the floor, like everywhere. And I was like, beating so fast. I'm like, like trying to clean up. I'm like, did it start? Did it start? And then so I was like very flustered by the time I got in there. So then everything went out the window, and I was just like, I'm just gonna be no filter here, and hopefully it works. Like,
well, you
we
talked
weren't
about having a
strategizing;
plan.
we were just sitting in the room together.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about coming into the game with a plan. What was your plan coming into the game?
I think I carried out my plan for the most, but with the exception of just like being a little quieter at the beginning. I guess it didn't end up impacting the game too much because we kept winning because we're winners. But yeah.
Well, you may be winners in the tribal portion, but I do have to point out you were in fact losers in the end.
Oh, rough.
But that's okay. Karli, how about you? You had a huge. I don't know exactly how to say it, but you gave a lot of very positive first impressions to a lot of people in your tribe. How did you feel navigating that tribal phase where you were only in that group setting?
Well, first off, it was honestly so nice to watch how the impressions were, right? Because you get a sense that people are hopefully being honest with you. They like you or whatever. But watching people, it was like one episode that seemed like everyone in their confessional was like, I want to work with Karli. And it felt good. But yeah, I mean, the group setting was, and this was my first org, right? So it's like it was a retrospective thought about not having all this individual time. Once we got to the merge, it's like, oh, their relationships, like I remember thinking that me and Evan had gotten close a lot sooner than I actually think we did, and that's just because of the environment. And I think we had moments, there were some that weren't shown, right? So where I had a sense of who I was comfortable with or who liked, I could trust, but it really wasn't tested at all until the merge, right? We voted out Rob, but that was like, I'm lucky that I made that good first impression, right? Because I think that's what saved me. It's rare, as I hear, to do poorly in a challenge that early. I think if we had swapped differently, I also don't think I would have made it. There's just these moments, but besides that, like that's it. It wasn't really a true show of loyalty, right? Like that vote didn't solidify who was with who really in our group. So yeah, it was once we got to the merge, it became very clear that we were a bit behind in sort of the social game, and I guess in that way.
Yeah, you bring up a good point.
Yeah, I just want to say two things. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Evan. Go ahead.
I think you have a lag.
Okay.
It's not your fault.
I think I do as well. Sorry, it's Hawaii internet. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say in response to that, one, there was a moment that was not on the show because I don't even think it was recorded between me and Karli after the challenge where she was literally the only one who threw herself up there to throw the cards. I was like, wait, before we go, like there wasn't even a production member in the room. I'm like, I'm not letting you go for this. You should not be sent to the wolves just because you volunteered, like because you were brave enough to volunteer. Like that's bullshit, for lack of a better term. So I think that's when our relationship first started blossoming into what it became. And then secondly, just a quick note on Rob. I just need to talk about how robbed he was. Like it was so unfortunate for him. Like there is truly nothing he could have done, and it's not his fault in any way. Like he is so likable and charismatic, and like I absolutely would like to love working with him in the game. But like, what were we supposed to do? Like,
I think
so I
if
just wanted to
we
make sure
had,
that that's said.
I think if we had had one round with Rob, we would have voted out somebody else. I'm not going to throw a name out, but I'm just saying somebody else than Rob, because I'm not throwing a name out in my, after the snuff, it's like, doesn't matter, right? But anyway, the point
no
is
name.
like that Rob, I actually talked to him after the game, right? Like we, just like we all did. And I got this vibe from him in the few moments we got together too, but even we were against each other, we had this little chat and it was like, gosh, I wish we could work together because you seem cool. So yeah, I mean, like it fell in my favor, but also I wish somehow Rob didn't have to go then, because I think he would have been great. And it was to keep going with the same people. Like I hear that a bunch, but it is. I mean, like I would have loved to switch things up earlier. We didn't really have a safe way to do that ever.
Well, and you bring up a good point that I think a lot of people take for granted when it comes to these games. And it's the fact that, and maybe it's just on my mind because I watched an episode of Survivor Guatemala where this line is said in it. It's hard getting the numbers in this game. So when you get them, you have to work to keep them. And yes, the Oro tribe members had to struggle through vote after vote. They really had to solidify their bonds with each other, but we also saw that it kind of sowed a bit distrust between them amongst themselves. Whereas all of you didn't have the opportunity to build trust, but you also didn't have an opportunity to betray trust with one another.
That's
and that
true.
gave you the opportunity to really gain control of the game come the merge.
We had the numbers, right? I mean, and that was constantly the conversation too. Like, it's clear that you could just vote one of us off again, right? So we don't think you should do that. That's boring. But like, they're right. I mean, there's some sentiment there, but also it's a gameplay to say it's boring because it's clearly that we have this power that we could easily just trust and keep moving with if we wanted to. Yeah.
And the idea of it being a boring strategy is really interesting because, yes, from a viewer perspective, it's very boring. From being the people who are being pagonged, really boring. Evan, when you're the people doing the pagonging, does it make any sense to flip on the numbers you have already solidified?
Good question.
Yes and no. Like, it was killing me inside. So just to preface this, I've done one other org before this, and it was nothing like this. It was on a different app. It wasn't even on video. So like, whatever experience that I can have gotten from that one org, like it was mostly over text, like night and day compared to this. But as like a super fan of the show, like the pagonging and like, oh, they're just gonna stick together, it was eating away at me, and it was so annoying. Kayla, I'm looking at you every time. Oh, you guys are just coming after us and taking us out and steamrolling us. Like, no, I am consistently working with you. I'm not steamrolling, and time again, I kept proving that to her. We all see how it turned out. But like, no, I don't think it makes sense to just stick with the numbers for like the long haul, because eventually there's only 6 people left in the game, 5 people left in the game. You have to keep your options open. And there is a time where it doesn't make sense to start turning on your numbers. If you do it too early, then you're an easy, oh, both sides can go after this one and be like, here's our like sacrifice for you. But like eventually you have to. So you have to open those doors at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, only a single person can win Survivor. So you have to position yourself in a way that gets you there the best. Sure, you can position yourself through the early section of a merge with numbers you had pre-existing going into it, but eventually you have to figure out how to get the numbers within those numbers, which, Evan, I think you were doing quite well in this game. I mean, you were bridging that gap by talking to Kayla so much. And I think a burning question that a lot of viewers have, did you know Kayla before the game at all? Did you know of her?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting one. Kayla and I had met one time in New York City. We grabbed dinner together with a group of like 7 people. I didn't know who she was. She didn't know who I was. Well, I think she and my brother had met. I didn't have her phone number. We weren't connected on social media or anything. So, but it was kind of a situation where my brother, who is my twin, was like, I feel like if you ended up playing the game together and you hadn't met her that one day, she still would have been like, oh, Erik, and been like thinking it was my brother. So there was going to be something that went off in her head, right? There was no talks about strategy because we didn't know that we were going to be playing on this game together. You know what I mean? So yeah, and it's fun, like, because I'm not part of the org community or the LRG community, so I didn't know anybody. It's fun looking back and seeing like, oh, these people all knew each other beforehand. Like they knew of each other. I didn't know anyone. And I think that can both hurt and help you. So I don't know. Clearly didn't help me.
And Karli, like opposed to that, like you were very fresh, like completely fresh to the org. This is your first time in the experience. You didn't know anyone coming into this, but you are very good friends with Carrie from production. Does that bond, like knowing someone on production? A lot of our cast know people on production. It just makes it easier for us to find people when we give you like, hey guys, apply for our games. But did that ever come up in conversation about just like knowing mutual people at all?
Well, I think first off, I think I was more worried about it than I needed to be. Like, just because I knew that, you get repeat players. I knew that much about it. It's just part of the thing, right? It's hard to get enough people and also the right sort of mixes and things. So I knew there would be other people who might know each other. I only watched Trinity Falls, so I'm like, I know one cast, and if none of them are playing, then I'm not going to know anyone. And that's about it. What was really interesting is I knew people's names because Carrie will talk about people, but I didn't have faces. So Kayla knew who I was, but I had no idea who she was. The whole game, which is interesting because now I know Kayla is really well, and like we're really good friends, because we have so many mutual friends. But I think there's even a moment in the show where it's like, oh, you're that Kayla. I wasn't sure, right? Like it went through my head, but I was afraid of that information coming out for some reason. I thought maybe I'd get targeted because I was like really good friends with Carrie and McKenna. But then once you get in it, you're like, well, gosh, everyone knows everyone. It's not that big of a deal. And actually, I think I should have maybe done, we all wish we would have done a little bit more homework. It's just not my personality. I procrastinate. Like I never would do what Sam did, which is great. Like good for him, right? Doing practicing and all that ahead of time. But I like to think I would, but yeah. So I came in not knowing anyone, not recognizing anyone, never did until Kayla told me who she was, right? So yeah. It was, I loved it, but I do see some of the like it's not a huge thing that's like in your way, because I also see the side where somebody knows of you, they know that you're skilled or they presume that, and then that's a negative thing too. So I had my own thing where I just didn't know of people where maybe knowing a little more knowledge would have helped me, but they also have the burden of like saying they have the skill, and that me coming in, oh, I don't know anything, was a play, like that was on purpose. And the first episode, actually, I think it's like we talked in that room, and a lot of times, for the record, when we won, we're sitting in that room for like 40 minutes, but they're only going to show a little bit of that, and of course you're going to show the good bits, right? So it's not like we just talked about that, but I think I definitely was the one who was like, so what's everyone's org experience? And I knew exactly what I was doing. I wanted to start, especially knowing that I was like, my answer sounds so innocent. Oh, I don't know. But like, I knew a little bit that was like and sure enough, that's what everyone talked about in their confessionals. So it's a fun place to be. I was like, I'm going to milk it while I'm new. That's how I kind of approached it.
I've done one or two minis. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Oh, wasn't that Simona that said that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
love her.
Yeah.
And she was so
Okay.
worried about it, and I didn't even pick up on it.
No.
Like, I
That's
wasn't there.
actually a
Okay,
really
fair.
interesting
I
thing
was in
from that.
confessional.
Sorry, keep going, Evan.
Lag.
No, this lag is bad. I'm so sorry. No, I was just saying. I was like, I didn't even pick up on it, and then I remembered I wasn't in that room. I was in confessional. Everybody else was there. So
Yeah.
But it was interesting in that round of confessionals because I'm doing the winner confessionals. I'm speaking with each of you, and you have Yap come in, and he's like, "I absentmindedly said how many targets I've done. What was I thinking?" And it's really funny seeing the veteran players sweat it out because of how many newer players are on one of our seasons, where they say it because they're used to games where everyone's played like 30 to 50 orgs, and like, they're playing three at the same time.
blows my mind.
It's some people in the org community, guy, I'm going to be honest with you. You play too many orgs. Calm down. There are other things you can do, I promise. But you keep playing our orgs. We like you.
Go touch grass.
But
keep playing DCP.
But the big thing is, like, it's so funny seeing the experienced players respond to such an innocent question of how many orgs do you play, and they're so used to being like,
was
yeah,
it innocent though?
No, it wasn't. Carly had her ulterior motives there, but it's so funny because I think a lot of newer players and like greenhorn players we have playing a game do put a lot of weight on how much org experience people have. And then because of that, experienced players put too much weight on how much org experience they have without applying that org experience to the current game they're playing.
It kind of doesn't matter, right? I mean, like, at the end of the day, look at it. Like, Final Four, me and Sam both had never played Nord before. And sure, we also were both the floaters, like, whatever. You could add your, stereotypes if you want to. But I think if you just look at the gameplay.
Disagree.
I think the gameplay speaks for itself. Like, people can play different. Yeah, it kind of doesn't matter. We make a big deal out of it, like, as players, I think. But I
think as players, and like I've played a few orgs too, right? As players, we get too wrapped up in our own stories sometime and think that things about us are important when they're really not.
Oh yeah, I have a lot to say on that front, but I think it'll come later.
Okay. Well, there's one more thing from the pre-merge I think we really need to mention. And it's recurring. It comes up over and over again. Evan, it's your bagel.
Yes.
Oh,
just
yes.
Walk us through your bagel experience throughout the day and how it evolved throughout the day.
Yeah. So there was kind of like it was kind of, I guess, magic. Like, I don't really know. I've never seen this happen before, but I can confirm. I think during Rob's vote out, he reincarnated into the bagel, and like, because like I'm like, oh shit, my bagel's on fire. Like, I turn my camera off and I go run to get the bagel, and then I just, because I have my AirPods and I hear, wait, why did someone leave? You're not supposed to leave. Where are you? And I'm like, sorry, just keeping my house from burning down. And then I can't remember why or who said it. I know Simona at one point had these little pencils with animal tops on the erasers, and we were gonna say one of them was Alex and one was McKenna, which I don't think ever happened. We should have. Like, let's try to keep it interesting since we're the tribe that keeps winning. Like, let's get some screen time over here with these pencil toppers. But like, the bagel very quickly became a full-fledged immunity idol that never expired, and you could use it over and over. So that's kind of how I made my way to the end. I just kept playing it,
Yeah, it was powerful. I agree. I saw it.
I think the levity of something like that is really important in this game because, and it's spoken about in these last couple of episodes how long the day is. Obviously, like, we start early, we go late. You're playing for like 12 to 14 hours straight. It's a long day. Having something just to break the mood and break the tension, especially because this is a tense game at times, right? There's a lot of strategy going on. There's a lot of people trying and lying to each other and trying to betray each other and things like that. Having something like this bagel going on and on throughout the entire game just brought a little lightness to it, even if by the end of the game, it started getting to the point where it was just delirious rantings about this bagel. And we saw McKenna's frustration about that bagel.
Oh, she hated it. I know. I was like, oh, they're going to hate me. I need to stop. But I couldn't, because once it started, I was like, okay, now, like, we have Yap, who is, I am like in love with this man. He's so funny. He's so charismatic, so kind. I wanted nothing but to continue playing this game with him. And then I'm like, okay, now I've made a few jokes too. I need to just like maybe like lean into this, like I'm joking around and I also don't know what's going on. Like so that people don't take me as seriously as like an actual threat. Like, and that's kind of what it became. And I think I leaned into it too much at times.
I
But
don't know.
hey.
I think it worked for you. Like, it's silly. It's a slightly annoying to production, but at the end of the day, it shows your personality. It like, it's a weird, funny thing that did connect us, right? Like, I don't remember who said it. My mind, it might have been Yap, but said initially, oh, you should pretend to play it as an idol later, right? And it's like every time it came up, it brought us all back to that moment. So this is the psychologist in me, right? But it's like, it's not just something. It's something that past our time that reminds you of like your old alliance. Like, I mean, you could look at it as a play in strategy too, but I actually think it was just it's all these little things that make a game, make actual alliances and stuff. It's like I thought it was freaking hilarious and it made me love Evan more, right? Like so
exactly.
That's important to his game, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess
I think
I'm glad that it happened. Yeah, I mean, it's just like when we're all sitting in one room together, I mean, when I saw these people's pets, I'm like, oh, I just saw this man's cat. I can't put him out. I'm in love with his cat. Like once we've seen each other's pets, like what else is left, right? So I guess just out of the like sitting in the winning room, like what do we do now? And then once I was called out for turning my camera off, I'm like, okay, this bagel needs to become a plot point because can you imagine if my house burnt down because of DCP? Like,
we don't have the insurance to cover that, so I'm really glad it didn't happen.
None of us do.
I know. My neighbors upstairs, they're like, why didn't you stop the fire? And I was like, you don't understand. I was at tribal council.
Good time.
So, okay, let's look at this merge again. Because again, you guys go into the merge with the numbers, and that first round of the merge is pretty straightforward, right? There's that quick group where there's the decision to we're going to throw out Kyle's name to them, but we're actually voting Jabbar. Evan, tell me about that because you're the one who actually says his name. It says Jabbar's name is the person who should be voted here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So tell me what was going through
me.
your mind there?
It was extremely intentional, and I'm so sorry, Jabbar, because you are hilarious and like your confessionals are fire. Like I think you're amazing, and I also know that like after the fact, you're apparently amazing at these games, which does not surprise me in any way. But it was super intentional because I'm like, okay, I've had this conversation with Kayla. She tells me, I like, please don't take my people out, and I'm like, okay, who are your people? Enlighten me. And she's like, on my tribe, I trust Kyle and Jabbar. And I'm like, all right, noted. I will gain trust with you by keeping Kyle in the game, and then I'm gonna get Jabbar out because I want you to work with me, not with people on your old tribe. I want to be insulated on both sides. So I'm so sorry, Jabbar, but you can blame Kayla.
And this became a point of contention throughout the rest of the game, obviously. And Karli, I think one of the interesting developments that happens throughout this, these next few rounds, especially the next round where you're kind of stuck in the well, there are a lot of words that are said that you're saying.
What? Okay, yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, please do. Go into it.
All right. First off, I was spinning. Like, whatever my plan was, that also for the record, like multiple plans were thrown out. Like we were all just spitballing bullcrap and I can't leave. And both Andy C and Vogl had been like, yeah, let's do this group of people. And I was like, all right, I'll play along, right? And I found myself in like a twist of words. Like I didn't know what was coming out. It was like, what? But I never said a name. I was just like, I was just like, all this stuff that we all just won in this weird immunity has to be used now. So basically, I think I should have just left it at what I really meant, which was like, you can find a way to play all this stuff in a fun way that still makes it so that you look like you knew what was going on. That's all I really wanted to say. More than that came out, but I never said a name. I never said who should go home. I said play it on someone, nullify it, whatever, and like you send them home, whatever. Like, but at that, like, I knew as I was talking it didn't make sense, and then Andy immediately left. It's like, I need to go talk to Kayla, and I was like, F, like I'm screwed, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of was. I mean, it did mess up my game a little bit. I kind of love it. Like, I'm love that something happened and just got people to, it threw people off, right? Because, like, Kayla wouldn't tell me it was Andy. I truly think she might not have remembered who told her, but, like, doesn't really matter. Like, it was this whole thing of, like, who said what, and then Kayla threw it at Vogl. So, like, that was fun. But yeah, I had no idea what I was saying. And I was trying to, like, play along, and I apparently threw Vogl off too, but that's okay because I knew I was probably going to vote for him that round. So I knew Andy C was in the bathroom. I knew he might be able to hear us.
Yes, that was wild to watch.
I was like, I did know, and I didn't care. I was like, I know everything I'm saying right now is a lie, so it doesn't matter. And other people were continuing to talk with me too, so it was a decision from all of us to keep talking, even though he might be able to hear us. But like, yeah, it was a mess. I was in a position where I couldn't leave, so I think I was filling silence a lot of the time too. Habit of mine. But yeah, it was I didn't know what I was pitching. So
I think it's really interesting how that round actually broke up. And I think it's, like you said, it kind of jump-started everything that happens in this post-merge, because that first part, it very much seems like, okay, this group from Argento sticking together, they are just going to get these auras out and they'll fight it out by themselves. And then this round happens, and Karli, you're stuck in the well, and everyone has to come to you. And surprisingly, everyone comes to you at some point through that entire conversation.
Are we surprised?
no, I don't think Kayla ever came to the
Kayla
well.
didn't. Yeah.
Am I wrong about? I might be wrong about that, but I remember if she did, maybe we only got to talk for a second. But
I think it was like right before the end, like right, because I think you two were talking when Tribal was called.
Because I remember it's like the next round we're like, we haven't got to talk yet. So but yeah, right. So it's like post merge, I want to get to talk to people and like maybe go find certain people, but I can't move. So people had to come to me. Like, I don't think Evan and I talked very long that round. That's for sure. Like,
you know what's so funny? Like the parallelism between you and Kayla's relationship and me and Kyle's. I wanted to work with this man, and I was like, I finally got to meet him at like final 6. I don't know, did he was he in there at final 6? Like literally could not pin this man down. And like when I finally got to a room with him, he gets pulled for a confessional. So it's just funny that like we had the same thing where like I'm protecting Kyle and Kayla's protecting you. Well, I don't know if I would say she protected you. I know I did. She was supposed to, and then kept randomly trying to throw you out. There was one argument, I don't even know if it was shown. It was me, Kyle, and Kayla's like, we need Karli out. And I'm like, hell no. Like, we're not voting Karli out. What about our deal? Like, this is not happening. And then she's like, then who? I'm like, anyone else, but also not Yap.
Yeah. Too many hands in the cookie jar there, Evan.
Yeah.
Evan kept a lot of hands in the cookie jar. I think that people would agree with that.
So I just have a question, and Evan, I think you can answer this one. What vote do you think was the most impactful that kind of sent you down this path to being voted out in Final Four?
When we voted Kyle out when we shouldn't have. Kayla needed to go. It was so clear. And I don't even blame Karli. I blame Alex, because Alex, if he had let us talk for like 30 more seconds, even 10 more seconds, we could have been like, wait, not Kyle. Let's go the other K name. That's not Karli, obviously. Like, why are we voting Kyle out here? And like, even just the discourse between me and Kyle about how Kayla was just throwing your name out. I'm not lying to you. This is literally what happened. And he said himself in his confessional, and I was really happy to see it afterwards. He's like, yeah, I would like to work with Evan. And I wanted to work with him as well. I think that was obviously where the game went wrong for me, because Kayla just had her sights set on me, and that was it. Like, and I can't flip a cup. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Karli, do you agree? Like, final five was kind of that moment where it
Oh,
kind
absolutely. Yeah, I
solidified
mean,
you two.
I think, I could go on probably for a whole hour just about that tribal, but like, I think I know where I was at. I was afraid. I don't think I trusted all the relationships I had enough to take a stand, but I should have. Like, I should have been someone needed to throw Kayla's name. Because Kayla made more sense than Kyle, right? Like, they were targeting Evan, not Karli, because Evan had a better resume. But we targeted Kyle, and Kayla had a better resume. It doesn't make sense. And so I think I didn't throw it out because I didn't want to piss Evan off, because I thought Evan was
Right.
close with Kayla. But actually, I think the people maybe who were in the best position to throw her name out were Sam. I pitched Sam at one point. I was like, we're all talking for Sam. And I was just like, I want to know what he was thinking. And he talked for a minute, but he wouldn't say a name. He wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't say, and I don't blame him, I guess. But I think also Kyle could have, because of the exchange, the whole cryptic thing at the beginning between him and Evan, if either of them had said her name, I think it would have happened. If anyone had said her name, actually, I think it would have happened. I think it could have come the easiest for me, and I wish I would have, but at the same time, like, I was playing a little too close to the chest, I think, at that point, like, for being at 5.
I think we can blame Alex. If we can all agree it was
Alex's fault.
And yeah. But also, I think my fate was sealed when Kayla got to the vault for the first time for the 8th time in a row. Like, she and I collided in the vault, and then she's like, I was here first, get out. And I'm like, okay, great. And she got not only the safety without power, but an idol that lasted for like 2 tribals. She didn't even have to pay to extend it. I'm like, well, watching it back, like, and knowing that she's so good at challenges, like, there goes my game. Like, she was immune for like 10 rounds in a row. I mean, maybe not 10, like 4, but still, like, it's wild. Who could have predicted that? Maybe 3.
The final 5 is that moment that breaks it up, right? Because she wins the last 2 immunities. Yeah.
Well, she had safety without power. She had the idol. She had a bunch of immunities. So, like, let's see. How many times was Kayla eligible to be voted out of the game post, like, final 8? Like, I don't even know.
She was eligible like 8 and 5. I mean, that's the thing, is she wasn't eligible for 2, and then she was, and then she wasn't for the rest of the time. But, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, it is. And it's something you have to consider in Survivor, right? Like, sometimes people don't consider how many opportunities have we had to vote someone out of the game. And one of the interesting things about that final 5 is, and how dynamic it is, and I promise we are going to get into these last 2 episodes here soon, but this final 5, Sam of all people wins immunity there. What happens if Sam doesn't win immunity?
I actually think we would have voted Sam out. I do think that's what would have happened. I don't think it would have been.
I disagree.
You don't? Oh, tell me.
No, I never had the intention to vote Sam out. I think that was not in my plan. I think my sights were set on Kayla if she didn't win immunity, and if not Kayla, then maybe Kyle, because I felt you, Sam, and I had like a good enough thing going that like it would get you and me further and closer to the end, whether that's the final 3 or final 2.
Final 3, yeah.
Yeah, like Kayla, yes, I love her, and I was working with her, and that helped me get further in the game. But by no means was I ever going to take her to the final tribal with me, especially with her story. Like, it's wild. So I forget who said it. Maybe it was even you, but like, and Sam himself, I think, felt scared that he was maybe going to go there. But if I had any say in what was happening at Final 5, there was no chance in hell that Sam was going to be voted out there. I think even if he wasn't immune, like if you were immune or if I was immune, I still think it would have been Kayla and Kyle on one side, me and you on the other, and Sam making that decision. I don't know. That's just how
I
I
think
see it.
we never had this and it's just, this is part of the whole idea of doing a mini, right? Like
Mhm.
For sure,
the
yeah.
amount of time that me and Evan had, just the two of us, is so limited in this game. And I think I never knew how, like, I didn't know if you were going to take Kayla or take me. Like, I didn't know who was high
Yeah.
once you got there. And I think, like, it becomes clear, of course, later, but this is like a little bit earlier, I'm thinking these things. And so it's like, yeah, you just get such a different look when you look after the fact. But,
And that's on me too. I mean, we didn't have enough time, right? But like I should have let I mean, I guess I did my best to let you know you're my number one, you're my number one. And
yeah.
you were my number one. But like if I had said Kayla is not in my endgame plans, she shouldn't be in either of our endgame
I
plans.
think I
But
looked
like
at her
did we
as number
get that
2.
chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, well for me she was number shield. Like I would play with her
Number 1
as
shield.
far as I could play with her. Yeah, like but she wasn't she was a bridge for me to like the other people as well to try to insulate us. And she knows I love her, and she knows that I've said to her face that she's a little shit because she is, but like she killed it. Like she killed it in this game,
Yeah.
and like I feel like she played such a high variance game. It's a type of play style that you either flame out very early on, or you somehow like just all the dominoes fall or the stars align the way it needs to, where you have the right connections with very specific people that get you as far as you need to get, plus a combination of immunities and advantages. And yeah, no, she and I was pivotal in that. And I let her stay a little bit too long, clearly. Look what happened. So that was her winning the game.
Yeah. I think at 5 is when I've told Kyle this post game too, but if if either of us had the wherewithal, we would have been like me, Kyle, Sam. And at 5 is when we should have had that conversation and been like, it's time we switch. Neither of us have anything on our like that would have been the time.
Right.
And it just, honestly, I think both of it, well, you're tired, right? But it's a quick round.
Exhausted.
And you really just don't have a say over who you're going to get a chance to talk to. Like it's like that round is when it really starts to become pivotal, in particular when we get pulled for confessionals, right? You see people all the time, like left in a room by themselves. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Can I ask both of you a question? Oh, sorry.
Yes. Yes, you
Okay,
may.
I have a question for both of you. So let's say final 6. In terms of resumes, like with my resume and Kyle's resume, Kyle like pulled, let's call it like a more sly, cryptic version of a Kayla, where Kayla at Tribe will be like, I'm voting Yap, and then let's all vote Yap, and then leaves. With Kyle, he called 2 votes live at Tribal. It was phenomenal, amazing to see. The Vogl one obviously was like very obvious what he was doing there, but it just, and it worked like twice. So I think that was a phenomenal resume. That on top of all what he went through at the beginning of the game, surviving rocks. So like I'm wondering who really had the bigger resume at that point.
I think you still did.
In both your eyes. Really? Okay. Well,
I think Vogl, though, I didn't necessarily give credit to Kyle, and that's just because I think it was going to happen either way. The Andy vote, I do think he truly did call that like live, and I missed it for the record. I did not get what he meant by it. I just didn't hit me fast enough, and I was like, I don't know what he's saying. I'm voting, and I voted for Kyle. I was out of it. I would have probably voted for Andy if I had gotten it in time, but nope, didn't get it. But I think he called that one.
Well,
and then like you have challenge wins, and you have this, you're the only person who really tagged both sides as far as allies. I think that would have gotten, I agree. Would have put you ahead of Kyle in my head.
And it's really hard to determine, right? Because obviously we know that the jury wasn't too high on Evan's game at this point, but it's hard to really determine.
Shout out Vogl.
It's hard to really determine what would happen at the end of the game if given the chance to speak your truth and present your argument at final tribal council.
Like Kayla says it like, oh, I'm not good at public speaking, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think I believe her. She killed it. She killed it at final tribal. I am not good at public speaking, and it would have been a hot mess. So I don't even want to explore what would have happened if I was there, because it would have been all over the place. Like, genuinely, I'm not bullshitting you. That's truly how I think it would have been. So I don't know. That's where I'm at. But also, I just wanted to say, Vogl vote, that vote, I think, was very determined by the time we got tribal. I don't think Kyle called it as much as it seems like he did, but he did like get a few, maybe one or two extra votes at the end to pile on, maybe. But it was still a huge, like, bold thing to say and do at a tribal, and it worked. And then he made it all the way as far as he did, which is just amazing.
No, I think I would have had a hard time against Kyle too. Like, I think if I were to rank the games or something, like, and I knew this going in. I mean, I kind of said that sentiment too. Like, it did truly like, I think it also comes out, and maybe we're transitioning into like when Evan gets voted out, but like I think really thought it was going to be a final three. I think that's like, it's such a component. Like, I think we did. I think I'd love to give myself credit for, I think I'd love to give myself credit because truly, if Evan had won fire, then I think I would have been a shoo-in. But I didn't have that wherewithal. I really didn't. I was thinking truly in that moment of, I'm probably going to lose in this final three. It doesn't really matter. And I would rather take the person that I worked with. Like, honestly, that's where I was at. I do think that in a final two situation, I would have had a shot because like, but I don't think any of us were really thinking that way. So I think that's really interesting. And you can see people talk about it, but yeah. Evan, go ahead.
I would like to think, so I don't like to like ponder about what my final tribal would be like if I was there, because it probably would have been a shit show. I would like to think if you were in the final tribal, even if it was the final three or if it was the final two with you and Kayla, like, I would be stomping for you in the jury. Like,
I know. I think that's why it didn't take me.
That's, I mean, it's a good point, but I don't think that I feel that I don't know if this is a characteristic of you in general or just within the game, but I think you underestimate yourself and your game
in life.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's true.
And I'm like playing a game where I'm supposed to be beating everybody that I'm playing with, but I'm like, I want her to know how good her game is. She's amazing. Everybody loves her. Like, I don't know, but that's not the right setting for this, I guess, if you're trying to win.
You're playing your game too. And I learned a lot watching this game. I let my emotions get the best of me a lot. Like, honestly, that is the only reason I said Kyle's name at Final Tribals, because he said my name. And that's not a good enough reason. It's not like, in the moment, it felt like it was. And also, like, I thought I was doing a good move by saying a name. But at the end of the day, I said the wrong one. Like, and that was an emotional thing because I all of a sudden got afraid for myself. And it's like, I'm not a threat. Because I wasn't like I wasn't really gauging where I was. I let my emotions control in the moment, and I can see that as I watch it back. Like, I think my emotions are also why people like me. I don't know, like, I think it's a double-edged sword. But yeah, anyway.
I say don't blame yourself for that. Like, again, we're blaming Alex. It's fine. And also, like the amount of like it was all day, and at this point, I'm sure we're pushing like midnight. Like, maybe it was midnight at that point. Like, for the future, it would be so hilarious if you know how like on the actual show it's like day 26, or I guess it's the new era, day 3. But like the timestamp, like, this is how long they've been playing and why they're so delirious and making stupid, like, saying stupid things or being like weird, like, because they literally are exhausted.
Everyone got someone's name wrong once, I think, and it was awesome because it's like also at the point where clearly everyone knows everyone's names. Yeah, it's good.
I died when Kayla called me Ian because I have an older brother named Ian, and I thought that was hilarious. Also, I'm so sorry. I keep interrupting because I feel like I'm the newscaster, like, live coming to you from Hawaii. And John, 10-second delay. That's what it feels like right now.
Well, I just want to touch on a couple of things. And not much happens in these episodes, right? They're the shorter episodes. A lot of the second episodes just Final Tribal Council, and we don't really need to get into that too much. But we will just get your opinions on your votes in the end. But in this first episode, where Evan goes home, obviously you're coming out of the Kayla boot, and you're like, Sam had a lot of power in this because we were clearly two pairs going at each other, and and of course Sam's also immune, so Sam has no threat there. Like you said, Sam probably was the safest person to throw out a name there, but decided instead he was going to let the two of you go and then just vote whichever way he decided, which is a choice. And we get into this immunity challenge, and it's the memorization of Monopoly spaces in order.
I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, go about it.
Same.
Go for it, Kylie.
You
So do
very
I.
well may have said it, and I, you know, it wasn't in the cut, but I'm sure we always have opportunities to ask questions, so it's on us. I had every single one right, except I had 2 and 3 switched, and I don't think I realized that
Yes.
we're going to be scoring from the beginning. If I had, as a psychologist, I would have just memorized the first 7 and stopped. Like, but
Yeah.
I thought I'd get points for how many I got correct. I know this is what I thought. Maybe again, it's late. Maybe this was said, but I went backwards. So like, I thought I had the first 3 down, and then I did them backwards, and then wrote the final 3 last, or the first 3 last.
No.
And so I switched them, and I literally pulled my paper out while I was watching the episode, and I was like, I can't believe it. I had the rest right. So yeah, I mean, it just, you know, part of the game
Yes.
is also like understanding the challenge rules and asking questions. I mean, that is on us a bit too. But so
No, Karli. No, it literally the same exact thing happened to me. I was under the same exact impression. You know what? Let's roll the tapes back. This is a conspiracy theory officially. Justice
Yes.
for Karli and Evan, because I genuinely thought that it was, oh, you got 8 out of 9 correct. Like
Mhm.
I was all correct. I had 1 out of order. I didn't
Yeah, so
realize if
like
I'd known the order mattered. I think it was just exhaustion, but I genuinely, truly didn't know. Like, I guess that's on us, but I don't know. Did they
I
show
will
the
say,
instructions on the episode?
I will say, your performance in this challenge was still better than the performance in Battleship.
oh well, come
Stop.
on.
I was just going to talk about battleships. This was a hot
We need to
mess.
go back to Battleship, don't we?
This challenge, going to, and I was like, they're going to be annoyed if I bring up the 5 challenge, but this was a hot mess. First of all, like, I didn't know that you could put them diagonally, which is one thing, and maybe that's on me too. But secondly, I watched these people before I got eliminated and after shoot their own shit, shoot the same spot they already shot once, twice,
I
and
didn't
I'm
shoot
thinking
my own
like pulling
ship.
my hair out, like this was such an important one, and I'm gone.
Oh, I got hit
Did you shoot
first,
your own ship?
and it's such a like it's a social game because people were clearly avoiding me, at least at the beginning, because I got hit so early, right? So people, I think it's important for the viewers also, like, we're purposely missing sometimes because we don't want to hit our ally, or we don't want to look like we're going for someone too soon. But also, and I know there was some cutting, but also like it is a memory game. We were told we couldn't write it down. You know, it's like you have to remember. I freaking told everyone where my ship was when I guessed day 1. Like, I watched it, and like, I'm just like, I didn't remember doing it, but I watched it and I was like, that was the stupidest thing ever, right? So, also speaks to the delirium, but gosh, like, we haven't mentioned how
Delirium,
terrible I
pure
am at
delirium.
challenges, but oh my gosh, I couldn't even like get a grip in a challenge for my life, and I shot myself in the foot so many times.
Well, some might say you shot your own battleship.
Shot yourself in the boat.
Some might say, yeah.
Some might
Yeah,
say.
no, literally.
But I stressed this last week on After This Stuff. That challenge took about half an hour because people were guessing the same spots over and over again. But back to this immunity challenge
so
with the
bad. I was
memorization.
so. Oh, sorry. This delay is brutal.
It's
Go
okay,
ahead.
Evan. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I wanted that reward so bad. I was genuinely like so excited about it. And I think at the end when I lost, I was just like, the reward. Like I should have been upset about not being immune, but I was sad about the reward.
I have a question
Yes.
about when you guys play test these, do
Yes.
you test them when you're delirious?
We don't actually, and we have actually
I think
spoken about
it's a
that.
yeah, like I'm not, dissing you for it, but I think it'd be so interesting to do it so you have the range like for each of these because well, look at me, I'm such a researcher. I'm like, get everyone on sleep deprivation of the same amount and then have them do all these. But it's a factor because you can just see it. I'm sure it's annoying as a not annoying, but as a viewer, it's like the viewers memorizing all the Monopoly cards, and then we only got to 4, and they're like, okay, that was so boring. It's a factor. So anyway, like I was just curious.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, usually it is rather late at night. I mean, usually I'm less delirious because I'm on the West Coast, so I'm 3 hours behind most of our production team when we're testing. But no, we're nowhere near the level of delirium that everyone in the game is feeling by the time we get to a Final 5, Final 4 challenge. And you know what? Maybe for the viewers, they're like, oh man, we only got through 4 Monopoly cards. But on production, we're like, yes, they only got through 4 Monopoly cards. We can keep the game moving.
Right. You didn't need, also like you want to make sure it's hard enough. And I don't know if for that one also, like, I will say I remember not thinking I knew how many cards were going to be said, or like I
Right.
thought the way it was said was like, oh, we might get through more than one like
Round, yeah.
listing.
Multiple rounds,
And
yeah.
so I think we were all expecting like something easier, and then it's like, oh, there's another card. Oh, there's another card. And it was like 9, and we were like, yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we do make some changes as the game goes longer to some of the challenges, and one of the changes is like on these memory challenges, we tend to do smaller groupings first, and then work our way up to 1. And at this point, we're just like, nah, screw it, 8 right
We
away.
want this to be a one trial game. Yeah.
We're going. If someone can do this, fantastic. If not, well, someone
Let's
has
also
won
not tell
immunity.
them that they have to be in order. No, I'm just kidding.
Someone has won reward
I'm joking.
from Mars Child Crafts, and it was Kayla, which gives Kayla a lot of power here.
Once again.
All of a sudden, there are 3 people who can be voted for, and it becomes pretty clear in this. Evan, Karli, you two weren't voted. Like, Karli, you had an option to vote for Evan. There was a lot of pitching to vote for Evan, and Evan was like, I'm not voting for Karli. It has to be Sam. So, Karli, you were kind of just in the clear in this tribal council somehow.
Yeah, I was, and I think I realized that I had power, but like, what was it gonna do for my game if I voted for Evan? I voted out my number 1, and after my like loyal game, like that doesn't make any sense. And also, I mean, again, like it would have been in my best interest to Sam had gone home either way, I actually think, because if I were gonna make a pitch, it was gonna be the same as Sam's. So I might as well go up against these 2 like hard hitters. At least my story is different. Again, probably not gonna win against Kayla and Evan, right? Like, come on. But you never know. Like, I'm not gonna speak for the jury, but like I'm just being realistic. Like, yeah, it made the most sense for my game but that's probably the most power I had in the game as well. I mean, honestly, I was never like the clinch vote for anything. And I'm not trying to shoot my game. I'm just saying it was that moment of like, this is how I want to spend this power. And obviously, like maybe, Evan probably doesn't want to talk about it, but like he's
going to, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna make him talk about it.
Yeah.
And I was emotional, and it's funny because I told Evan I think I cried too, and then I watched and it's like, oh no, I held it together, but I was just 7. But I felt it, right? I mean, we bond, and I think that's the coolest thing about this experience, right? Like it was like I get to give this to you, like you get this shot at least. But yeah.
No, literally, I also was dreading that episode, and I don't know if it was the editing or if the quality of my camera is bad, but you couldn't see how much I was crying. It didn't come across as like belligerently crying as I thought it was, and it happened twice. Like I had forgotten that at Tribal, I was like, Kayla, please piss me off again, Kayla. Like I need to be angry so I'm not crying, because I was crying literal happy tears. Like who am I? Like I don't cry in general. Like I was just shocked, A, that I was crying at all. B, like how much emotion I was feeling, see that people were going to keep me here or even give me the chance. And so when I was flipping the cup, I or failing to flip the cup, I had already felt like, wow, I just won. Like, I don't care if I win the game, but like I thought I was dead. I'm still here. And like I beat Kayla this round because I wasn't able to be voted out of the game. I lost at fire, not due to her trying to vote me out. She never officially voted me out. So that's a win.
No,
No,
I
absolutely.
controlled the result of that. I could have claimed that if I had made it to the final, right? Like I chose how that went. I sent them to fire. Like, I mean, that's the best move I had.
I think it's really commendable and really respectable, Karli, what you decide to do there and stick with your loyalty, especially in a game. Again, you two developed this amazing relationship throughout the season. This is like 13 hours. Like, it's 13 hours, and you feel incredibly emotionally connected with these people you've been playing with for an entire day. And like you said, that's one of the phenomenal things about playing one of these games is this strange kinship you gain with everyone that you're playing it. But it does get hard to the point where Evan is crying because of everything going on in the game, like the decisions that have to be made here that he doesn't want to make. And you guys have known each other for less than a day at that point.
And
I
it
think
also
that's part of
bonds
why
you.
it hit so hard because no, exactly. Like this delay. So just like I felt so connected to Karli, and I even knew in my head, I'm like, if this is what it shoots me down at the end of the game, it's because I was too loyal to her. So be it. Like, but I felt such a strong connection, and the fact that it was reciprocated, and what some people might think is a questionable game move if they're not giving it enough thought. Like I it like blew me away. I like even thinking about that moment gives me goosebumps. Like I know it's just a game, but like I mean she was my number one and I know we're gonna be friends for life now. And it was because of a simple game played across one day. Like that meant so much to me. Like beyond the game. Like I think it actually like debilitated me so I couldn't flip the cups anymore. So should we blame Karli for me going home?
Oh. No, the whole point was that we weren't
No.
blaming
But
Karli for that.
I know, I'm joking.
Blameless. What can I
But
say?
no,
But let's get into this fire making competition. So the votes do come back tied. You have to play extreme flip cup against Sam. Just a 5-cup stack, not that many. And we find out after final tribal council that Sam practiced extreme flip cup in preparation for the game. Have you ever had to flip a cup like this before in your life, Evan?
I have played Flip Cup. I'm from Philadelphia. Like I went to college in Philadelphia. I've never flipped a cup onto another cup. And like I just want to say, like, I wish Sam had mentioned that he had practiced that earlier in his final tribal. This made me so
Yeah.
happy in every way. Like give me a clipboard and I could check all the boxes. One, I was never going to win because this man has practiced flipping cups on top of each other. Two, this is so badass and so impressive and amazing. Three, another like I use the word super nerd or super fan as a compliment. Like another super nerd fan who like was watching the previous seasons. Like I was all about it. It just filled my heart, and I'm like, yes, go Sam. Like you practiced that, and it paid off. It got you to final tribal. Like that's awesome. Like I just loved it. I don't care that it lost me the game. I was just so like pumped about it in general.
Well, and then unfortunately, Evan, you do lose. You go out of the game, but you do choose to bet on Karli going into final
Are
three.
we
And at
surprised?
this point, you don't know what's coming next. So you put your bet on Karli, and then Karli, we get to, I guess, the unfortunate part. You are informed it's a final two. And talk to me about how you're feeling
Oh
when
my
you get that
goodness.
announcement.
I think it's a solid 2 a.m. at this point. Like, or it's very close to 2 a.m. I think we finished everything at like 2:30 or something. So, um, we are completely beside ourselves thinking about doing another challenge, but also just like immediate thought, I'm not there yet, right? Like, I think we all had really maybe settled, and part of it's the time. Like, we do know you guys as production have a little bit of like you can change it on the fly, call an audible, say, oh, we're stopping at 3. Like we're sitting here, it's 2 a.m. It's probably done. Like we're you know, just
Yeah.
making all of our assumptions. And it's not true. So go into a challenge and they're describing it and my eyes were glazed over. Like I can't hear anything they're saying. I'm just still processing the fact that we're not done yet. And also like it's not an easy challenge. Are you kidding me? Like
No, it's not. It
it
is not
was
easy at
so
all.
much at that time of day. Like oh man. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, let's start with a jigsaw and then this crazy dexterous thing. Sounds great. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of time to chit chat about it. It's like, all right, we're not done. Here's your challenge. Let's go. That's about it. Yeah.
Can I just say with this challenge, I was looking so forward to like seeing what the discourse was after I left, but mostly what happened with this challenge. It was a complete mystery to me. I didn't know what the challenge was. All I knew was that Kayla won, which like, oh surprise, she wins again.
Yeah.
But like watching it back, like when Kayla's stack dropped the first time, I audibly yelled. I was like, oh like
I got up to
intense.
7 at one point, and like I dropped the 7 early. Like I wasn't back close, and by the time she won, but I knew it was I knew it was possible, and I didn't want a challenge. I hadn't even been close, really. I mean, I think there's challenges I like underperformed in for sure, right? I didn't practice anything. I'm a klutz in general. Like shouldn't have volunteered for the card thing, but you know, I think Yap gave me everything I deserved to hear
Yeah.
in his after the snuff. But I think that like yeah, I was feeling like I can do this one. I'm pretty good at jigsaw puzzles. Honestly, did not realize you couldn't rotate, like, which is a helpful thing that you can't rotate the pieces. But I
Yeah.
wasn't playing as if you can't rotate. And if I would have realized that initially, I think I would have been a little quicker at it. Kayla does these all the time. Like she beat me, she got to the cups a lot sooner than I did. But I got a good stack going my very first time. And after that, I was so nervous that remember everyone, we're moving these cups around with freaking pencils. And I'm like
at 2:30 in the morning.
I was shaking so much. Like I just couldn't stop shaking. And I never got past 7. So yeah, Kayla won once again.
And there's so much advantage you get of just finishing that puzzle first and getting to this cup stacking, because the cup stacking is so difficult. And it's explained to you and you're like, whatever, I'm stacking cups with pencils. Like that isn't that hard. And then you remember how slippery pencils are and how there's like no way to really apply enough pressure on the cup to like perfectly move it. The cups, I know when I was challenge testing, the cups like swinging back and forth and you're trying to land it on everything. You're trying to line it up because the less lined up you are at the bottom, the more likely it is your stack's going to fall.
When you learn like, okay, like initially you have to get them all situated, but when they all fall, like you're like, okay, take the ones that are already face up and use those. Take the ones that are already face down and use those, because switching them around with 2 unsharpened pencils is like it's impossible. And yeah, at 2 a.m.
Can I ask
if my heart's been beating.
Erasers?
Huh?
Is the strategy to use the erasers or the unsharpened pencil end? Because I would like to see Simona try this challenge with her 2 pencil toppers pencils. Okay. Can you imagine though? Like, what would she have done? I should have to use the flat end.
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah. And I also, just fun fact, I like had to run out the morning of the show because my pencils were sharpened. They were not unsharpened, and I procrastinate everything in my life. I ran through a snowstorm up here in Canada. I live in Canada. I'm not Canadian though. Only Kyle's the Canadian on the show. And like
John.
I went to 3 stores because everyone sells pencils pre-sharpened now.
I know.
So if you ever play DCP, go get unsharpened pencils ahead of time if it's on the list. Like they're not easy.
I actually personally learned that when we did challenge testing for this.
Oh my
gosh. I was like, oh, I don't have any and of course I've accumulated so many things for challenges, and I'm like, I don't have any unsharpened pencils at this point. So I go to the store and it's every pencil sharpened. You're like, how is this a thing?
But it was a thing, right? If it was sharpened, it actually would have made the ping pong ball thing so much harder.
Yes, yes, it would have.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, that was rough. That final challenge was rough. Kayla wins. My fate
And
is
then you
sealed.
have to pitch your entire game to Kayla at that point. She's making the decision.
Well, here's my time for a question for you guys. Do
Okay.
we think that I was actually that much more competitive than Sam against Kayla? Because she seemed to think almost like the way she told me is like, I know I can speak okay, but like, is that like, I really thought that I like Sam had an immunity win. Sam had the challenge advantage that he brought to us. Sam never had a number one, which actually made it harder. I thought he would be harder than me, but what's your perception? Since my perception of my game is
Uh,
weird.
Go ahead, Evan.
Obviously, we're gonna have different opinions because John has more knowledge of everything, I guess, and less at the same time, I guess. If you're only looking at one tribe during
I'm a little
the
more
game,
omnipotent than you are.
yeah, I was gonna use the word omnipotent, so I'm glad you said the word.
Thanks.
But I think that like or not omnipotent but omniscious or whatever.
Yeah.
But with Sam, I think that it's not so much as it being like a clear cut, like, oh, Karli has a better like chance at winning. Like with Sam, like Sam was very quiet during the game, right? And
Mhm.
so we never really saw Sam taking a stand in a public setting and speaking, right? With you, you were so well spoken the whole time. And you
Like,
had this
I
way
didn't think I
of
would.
drawing people in. Well, no, you definitely were. I'm sure you saw everyone's confessional. It's like it wasn't just because you were like your PhD. It was like, no, she is smart. She's good at talking. Like she's on good terms with everyone. So from that perspective, if I was Kayla, I would also see it that way. And the other thing is, I think Kayla, like some might disagree, but I think that if we were like recasting a heroes versus villains season, Kayla would be on the villains tribe. Like
I'd be a
it's just the
hero.
truth. And going up against the hero and Karli is like that's too big of a risk
Mhm.
because it was like Karli was consistent, she was loyal, she was sociable. No one ever said anything bad about Karli, and no one said anything bad about Sam either. But it's just like you spoke your loyalty, like you said it, right? And you proved it.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam proved it through votes, but not by saying it. And so I think that's where the like in her head, okay, this is what I have to do kind of thing is. But I want to hear what John thinks too.
I think a lot of people spend far too much time in these games and Survivor in general, and just every competition reality show focusing on resumes and big moves and things that bolster their game, and they don't put enough credence into social game.
Mm-hmm.
Karli, I think you had one of the best social games on this season, and it
Yeah,
was
thanks.
visible throughout the game because
Thank you.
everyone was constantly talking about how much they wanted to work with you, how much they like talking with you. And that's something that we as super fans of the game sometime forget is so important in there. And I think when it comes down to this decision, and I will ask Kayla about this in her after the snuff, I think this decision comes down to do you take the person who, yes, did a couple more things, but was kind of more invisible through the season, or someone everyone had a good relationship with? Right? And it's that social element.
Yeah.
I think you did stand a good chance of winning this game. I said a day of as we were getting towards the end. I
agree.
have,
I totally agree.
I have receipts in production chats to prove it. I think there was a high likelihood that if you got to the end, you could have pulled off a win in this situation.
Wow. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. That feels like such a compliment, and it feels good to hear. And I believe you. I mean, I don't not believe you. And I think this also plays back to it's so hard, especially in the moment, to have our good percept of our own game. Like I feel so much clearer after watching it. I feel more confident in my game. But like in the moment, I don't know if I could have sold myself as well as I could now, right? Like I think we did Final Tribal now and I was in it, I'd be like, yeah, I know all my things. But right, I mean, hindsight again, right? But yeah, I think it's I had a lot of like things I could lean on against my like I could come across as not a threat because, oh, it's my first org. Oh, I haven't won any challenges. Like, I do think all of a sudden I would have been the biggest threat if I even won one immunity. Like, because I do come across like I can talk well or something. I thought I said like a million times, but but we all hear ourselves differently. So yeah, obviously people thought they could trust me and work with me. And that would have been my pitch for sure. Something about loyalty. Yeah.
And can I say too, like watching back, like the conversations that you had with other people throughout the game, like I was watching when I wasn't in the room, I'm like, she is so good. I'm like, like, is she actually telling the truth right now? Like and you had a good way of like skirting around it too, where you weren't even lying. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing to watch. Like you're just a natural.
Yeah, I think that it's fun to watch and try to guess when other people are lying too, right? Because
Right?
I'm watching, my parents have become big fans, they're watching too, and they're like, I'm telling them, oh, I was not telling the truth to that person there. Like I was not actually loyal to them, right? That was a lie or whatever. And I even said it in a confessional. I was like, okay, I just told Simona she's my number one, but not really. Like, so I definitely was, it's ironic looking back at how much I lied. And then my final question to Kayla at Tribal, right? But I mean, like that's the game. Like it's also about hiding that you're lying, and I think that's a skill in its own right.
And
Absolutely.
I like to think too, like a lot of the lies, like everybody has to lie, or whether it's a straight up lie or a lie by omission of information, or a reactive lie. So if you're being prompted to tell somebody something, like in that moment, like, oh, maybe it isn't like the right move for me to tell this person what's actually happening. It's not like you're going out and proactively lying. That's also a strategy, but that's just not how you and I play, you know?
Yeah, and I think like this brings me back way earlier in the show, but there's a moment when you and Vogl and someone else are in a room, and like from Vogel's side of things, I think he says like he was lying, but like he wanted you to know he was lying and you didn't know he was lying. So then he came to me and we're like, he pitched your name, and then later he's like, I didn't mean it. This is the most fun, interesting part two of us, especially a mini, because there isn't in between time like there is on Real Survivor to like double check information or rehash a conversation. Like it is what it is, and he never had the chance to tell Evan that he was joking or not telling the truth, whether he means it or not.
Yeah.
Like, right? But yeah.
Well, I would like to rehash that one thing, because I did get a message from my dear friend Vogl about it. And no, like truly, I did not think he was telling the truth. I just wanted to plant the seeds that once we start turning on each other, he has to go. Like it has to be him. So
Yeah.
that was the beginning of me planting seeds for Vogel's like ultimate vote out. I didn't think he was genuinely trying to like call a coup on Karli, because with like one vote, with just Rob and me. I was like, I'm gonna go in there while he's still with Rob and be like, yo, just so you know, Vogel's throwing your name out there. Just gonna
Yeah.
leave this here, boom, and see what happens, you know? But no, I agree though. It is so fun like watching and being like, wow, they're either really good at lying, or was I tricked and they were lying to me and they're being truthful to this person. It's fascinating.
True.
Okay, well, I'm going to start wrapping things up here, but I do have a couple of fun questions from the audience here first. And Evan, the first one's for you, and it is from Lilly from production. And she would like to know, if the bagel was an idol, who would you have played it on, but you can't play it on yourself?
Yeah, who would I have played it on? Oh, obviously I would have played it on Yap. And
I was
I
gonna
would like to
say,
issue a formal apology here. Like I watching it back, it almost seemed like that was like me rubbing salt in the wound. I was so sad that when Yap got voted out, and like I didn't mean to make light of him getting voted out. It was just part of like our family relationship with our tribe with the bagel. But
I didn't take
100%
it
I would
that
have.
way.
Okay, well, I'm
I,
glad
I
it
took it
didn't
like you
come
were showing that
across
you
that
didn't want
way.
Yap to go home.
Yeah, and like obviously after the game, you can see I didn't vote him. Did I think that my one vote was going to change the vote? No, but I did like that it caused some chaos and it caused Simona to be like, well, what's happening now? Who was it? And I'm just like, I don't know. And she thought it was Sam. But yeah, I would absolutely play the bagel on Yap. No questions or doubts in my mind about it.
Oh, if Yap hadn't gone home, this game would have been different.
Mm-hmm,
So
absolutely.
different.
I think
so
that was
different.
such a clutch point, like that we didn't talk even a lot about today because we focused a lot on episode 5. But I also think that if Yap hadn't gone home that round, and I don't know who, like, I guess I'd be pitching Simone. It was just us, Simona for the
And
options,
Sam.
right? And Sam. Okay.
And Sam.
But like basically Sam or Simona instead of Yap is what should have happened. And we went off of what Kayla had thrown out before she even left. Like that's what happened. And I
Yeah,
wished we would have I played a very backseat game where I didn't want to throw names out. And this is one of those moments where I had to go with the flow because of that.
and I would like to just say in regard to Simona, like she is so smart and is amazing at these games. And I want to say I was happy seeing her confessional where there were times when she wanted to be with these two people or these two people. At one point she wanted to work with me, but by the time that, like, just before I had voted her, she admitted, oh, Evan's a threat, he needs to go after Kyle. And I'm like, good, my read was correct, because I never felt like I was in her end game plans, and that's why I was willing to throw the vote on her there. And then why that happened with the safety without power too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So Carrie would like to know who was a bigger cheerleader between Gina and Holt.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, definitely Gina, because Holt's only mission is destruction and distracting me. Holt is like anytime on like camera that I'm like, my cat just messed with me, it was Holt. It was never Gina. So those are my cats, Holt and Gina. Brooklyn Nine-Nine fans. Love
Shout
you.
out Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Let's go.
Woo! Yeah. But yeah.
Well, and Carly, Kyle would like to know, are you still interested in connecting to talk about dancing and music?
1000%. Yeah, that's like my jam. I love talking almost as much as I love talking about music. So yeah, 1000%.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you both for joining us. Before we leave, though, we do have our DCP tradition here. We have to end. So, Evan, what is one word to describe your game?
Can I just say bagel? I mean, that's
You can
so
say
lame,
bagel.
but okay, yeah, let's go bagel.
I love that.
All right, Carly, what
I
is
told
your
myself
one word?
I would think about this ahead of time because I've watched all the After the Snuffs and I didn't, so it's gonna be
Same.
spontaneous.
Yeah, same here.
I'm gonna go with spontaneous.
I like it. I like it. Well, thank you once again, both of you, for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to recap your games. Obviously, an absolute delight having you on this season. Thank you, all you loyal listeners and watchers, and everyone who has followed along for this entire season. We're almost there. We do have a few things that are coming up in the last week. You've seen the finale. Here's an episode of After the Snuff. Stay tuned this week. We have Kayla and Sam's After the Snuff coming up soon. We have the cast reunion. We will reveal all the jurors' voting confessionals from Final Tribal Council, their secret scenes. There's some Ponderosa coverage that's going to come out there. And we're going to have the production draft update where someone's going to be very happy and a lot of us are not going to be very happy when we find out how much power they get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's all we have. It's been such a wild ride this season. Thank you once again for tuning in. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel so you know when all of those videos are dropping this week. And we will see you next time.